We are live. Looks like we're live. But every time I give it an extra second. Whew, coming in hot with those cheers. All right. I feel like it's time to go and start the show because I see in the chat people are saying hurry up. People are saying hurry up here, you know? We got to go and, what's this guy's? Or person's name is Javon Linton. Says hurry up, so we'll hurry up and get to the show. And I want Dinakin or whatever that name is there not to fall asleep because I guess it's late where they are. So, once again, what up everybody? Yes. Back with another episode, Beyond the Beats, right here live and direct on Swissbeatbox. It's your boy Scott Jackson. We're on to episode 71. Big shouts to BRC21. Thank you for being patient. Much respect to everybody for tuning in. It's going to be a fun episode again. We're on to episode 71, Beyond the Beats. I hope you guys have been enjoying all the great content that's been coming out with the kickback battles. We had the live stream for the kickback, Loopstation RC505 Mark II edition that was there, and you got to find out who the winners were. So it's going to be a crazy battle coming up in between KBA, and it's going to be Robin as well in that battle, and we'll be finding out next week who's moving on in between the next battles that are happening with PSN and Christoph coming out as well next week. So a lot of stuff's happening in the loop world, and it's actually really nice because today, ladies and gentlemen, we have an artist that I've been happy to go and watch blossom and come into his own rank and his own sound and style, and it's been a pleasure to go and watch, and learning more about him as well excites me about the future of where he's going to take his music. So everybody that's watching, first and foremost, we're going to introduce and get right to the point. Introducing Mr. John Galush, repping for the Ash Fellas, repping for Blue Notes, repping for the Medi Bempsters, repping for Relush Game. Give it up for aka G Money, but give it up for Galush.
Every one of those creative collaborations, all of the old former, even high school a cappella groups, wild. You've done your research, sir.
What we try to do is Beyond the Beats. We try to go and make sure that people know about your history, know about where you came from and how we got in this. So give it up once again, Galush. How you doing?
On the ones and twos, how we doing?
Always good, man. Better to go and see your face, though.
Yeah, we're here. We're on it. So I have been enjoying some of these podcasts for a while now. I know y'all have been putting some serious work on them. We're up to 71, 72 episodes, 71 episodes.
You're episode number 71. Could you turn your microphone up just a little bit? Because people want to go and make sure that they can go and hear you.
Yeah,
I want to make sure that we can hear you. But, yeah.
I'll tell you what, I was recording some stuff earlier.
Let's go.
Boom.
Let's go.
There we are. There we are. One of the things we got to always remember, right, is to check the USB level because it's different from the line level. When you're recording out of the 505, you gotta make sure you're turning it down a little bit because it's easy to peak and get distortion and stuff if you're recording too high of a level.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I've been seeing that you've been doing a lot of stuff as well on it. You've released a gang of stuff this year, like a whole bunch of different pieces that you put out. Not only it's on your YouTube, but also you got the SoundCloud going on. Putting out a list of songs, and all of them original too. And you know what though?
There's a number of original songs going on.
Before we start off, me talking about your history, me getting into asking questions about the Blue Notes, Ash Fellas, all these good things. Before we get into your history of how you came to this world of beatboxing, do you want to show the people what you do? Do you want to start off with a showcase, start this thing off with a bang on the right foot?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Maybe just to start us off, I'll play that recent track from my Swissbeatbox shout out.
Let's do it.
That just dropped last week.
And if you guys are watching, everybody that's there, make sure you go and check it out. He just dropped it. I believe it's your third SBX shout out. Here Between. And that's featuring Theophile Victoria,
Yeah.
the dancer. A very cool collaborative piece that was done in a studio. You can see the collaboration happening. So make sure after this you go and check out the brand new shadow that's happening. But he's going to drop some for us right now. So ladies and gentlemen, starting this off on a hard note, starting off on the right note, you already know what time it is. I say the 3, y'all say the 2 and the 1. Galush on Beyond the Beast. Let's get it popping in 3.
I love that little intro. Right? I get to sing my voice in, and then we're back up, taking all those voice samples, playing them across the keys.
With crack eyes, the night is young again. And down below the ancient streets, well, we could be anyone. Rock to sleep, my Mediterranean. Down below the ancient streets, well, we could be anyone. Coming soon as it always has. All the tears and the fears of the dangers past. Will you be there for it? Yeah.
Let's go.
So funny enough, I think it was the last time I actually saw you in person was the 2018, or did I see it as 2019 or something? Either way, I wrote that song about the trip to Poland, the 2018 World Beatbox Championships. A little bit of the background behind that song. I wrote that song with Krakow eyes, the night is young again, and down below the ancient streets we could be anyone. Rock to sleep my Mediterranean, here between the land of what is and what used to be. Land of what is and what's going to be. So I wrote the song after spending an incredible night exploring the city of Krakow after the 2018 World Beatbox Championships. I remember all of those competitors, they were all having a night out on the town after the World Beatbox camp in there, and there was this dance club thing that was in the catacombs underneath these cobbled streets, these ancient buildings from Krakow. It was just the most amazing, the most amazing and memorable night for sure.
That's when honestly, yeah, big shout outs to everybody that was part of making the SBX camps, World Beatbox camp happen, and it was good to have you there as well. And actually, you got to, with the Watterson Summer Fellowship, that was part of the program that they helped you get over there and supported the cause to have it. And I found that looking into your resume and stuff that you've done, there's been a lot of times where you've proven yourself, you've put the effort in, the work in, and your community has supported you to go and
and I cannot thank them enough for that. Incredible love, incredible mad shout out to my college, Bowdoin, a small liberal arts college up in Maine, that was and has been and continues to be incredibly supportive of my work and projects and exploration and whatnot. So much of the reason that I was able to make the financial investment in this music and the academic study of this music and this culture was only made possible through stuff like the Watterson Fellowship. That was a summer opportunity to get support to go to those kinds of events and to work them into my academic studies.
Now, when you go to university, or excuse me, college and post-secondary, and you start getting the opportunity to go and integrate beatboxing into your studies and use it as a focus for your musical studies as well, something that I've heard many people are starting to do, whether it be someone, I believe Verver was doing it with speech therapy, and all sorts of people have been pursuing the idea of applying beatboxing to different programs, to different studies, and having it recognized. How does that conversation how's that conversation start on your end, and what do you recommend for somebody that might be looking to pursue beatboxing into a post-secondary style of education?
Right.
How does that conversation start with a faculty?
Definitely. So you mentioned a couple things that are important to remember, is that there's so many different ways of applying beatboxing and applying even music more generally into more thoroughly academically realized fields. You'd mentioned the speech therapy work. I have actually been working myself in expanding speech therapy opportunities and having that be included in the beatbox side of study. There's a few programs I've been working on that I think for now are going to have to stay a little bit on the down low, but until I can be more sure about how they're all looking. But there's definitely some really incredible work being done by not just myself, but by people who are deeply connected in the speech therapy and the language pathology fields that are making some awesome stuff happen. So that's all to say that back to that question about the talking with faculty and whatnot, is to realize and remember that when you are talking about integrating an art form or talking about integrating an unusual kind of topic or interest into the arts, the more thoroughly you can practice explaining its value and practice demonstrating the kinds of bigger questions that you're able to answer with this art form, that you're able to connect on a deeper level to all these different areas that that this music can impact people's lives on, all the different levels on which beatboxing can impact people's lives. that is very much worth studying, and that's going to be worth studying for just about any like niche interest. So when I brought these kinds of interests to the faculty, my faculty advisor, Ms. Tracy McMullen, who's an amazing jazz saxophone player, has written extensively on the histories of stuff like gender and rock and roll, talking about different ways that the voice has been appropriated or appreciated in different kind of cultural contexts. She's very much an expert on the analysis of music in the context of culture, in the context of like broader histories of oppressed voices and that kind of stuff. She pushed me a lot to think about the ways that beatboxing itself, aside from the actual musical aspects of it, can be existing in a cultural context, and ways that answering questions about that cultural context can give us in the academic field compelling answers to bigger questions than just about the music itself. So when we're talking about like getting support from higher education institutions, right? I'm seeing some questions in the chat real quick. I'm 23. Yeah, I'm 23. So I graduated college I was a 2020 graduate of college. Basically the last hurrah that was going to be happening was GBB. That was the one that was scheduled for the 2020 GBB was going to be scheduled was originally scheduled before COVID for the spring of my senior year. It was going to be one of the kind of last big events that was going to be tied into that work there. But I'm getting back to the idea of like when you're talking to faculty, taking the cultural context of beatboxing and diving into that, right? Answering bigger questions in a smaller kind of sub-study, right? Like being able to find a way to point out the ways that, for example, in this case, beatboxing is an incredible little microcosm through which we can better understand much bigger topics around like like gender and art and performativity, right? Like so we can talk a lot more about like cultural appropriation and the history of the American musical scene with the global expansion of hip hop, right? Like there's these much bigger topics that we can find beatboxing existing as like a little microcosm, and like break it down in the context of beatboxing and see how those kinds of questions and those kinds of answers expand beyond like just that little world.
Very well said. And I just like the idea that the more it's done, the more that you can put beatboxing into the academic world and have it being respected and having professors recognize it, the further it's going to legitimize.
The easier it will be to get those kinds of projects to happen more often, right? So like the incredible work that I'm seeing happening more and more often in the academic sphere, like that was very much one of the main ways I wanted to and continue to want to contribute to the community, is expanding it into some of those academic spheres that can help us bring stuff like more money into the community, right? Like we see how grant opportunities and artist residency programs and expansion of like performance opportunities for artists includes it follows on the heels of stuff like grant support for the development of arts programs in higher education, right? Like that kind of stuff is one, like, I mean, one additional aspect to all that stuff is the further legitimizing of beatboxing, especially in the higher academic world, is like going to follow with more opportunities for beatboxers to pursue it as a career, even beyond just in the academic sense.
100%. And seeing people like, again, seeing people like Reeps doing residencies at Harvard.
Exactly, right? Boom.
Seeing someone like that go and smash it up, and seeing people that have been able to pursue it and use it in their studies, use it, as you said, being able to go and use it as a small spectrum to go and try to expand on it, to go and figure out bigger points, and using it as a case study, or being able to go and do that. I just love the fact that that's actually starting to happen, and something that is getting the ball rolling, and yourself being one of the people that's getting that ball rolling from just myself, I just want to go and say thank you. And people in the chat, go and say thank you, because that's definitely a good point, and something we need more people like that to go and take it on the academic route so that it gets more legitimized and people actually show it the respect it deserves.
I think one of the other pieces to it, right, is that when you're looking at the grant proposals or the funding opportunities available, or even just like ways that higher education institutions can support you, oftentimes like the language is broad enough, like, hey, this is a summer fellowship thing or an internship opportunity. Many colleges are trying to get better at like supporting unpaid internships for their students, right? So like internships with companies that you can work in the music and the production world, or artistic fellowships and stuff like that, where you're developing your craft and whatnot. A lot of times the language on that is intentionally left broad to be able to have as much kind of umbrella reach for individuals to like bring in their own artistic vision, right? Like they don't want to prescribe the artistic process on the people they're going to be supporting. They want to make it possible for the people that they're supporting to come to them with a vision, and the stronger and more thoroughly developed that vision is, the more likely you'll be able to get that support. So like when I was first getting there are a number of, Bowdoin was absolutely incredible with their independent research support for me. One of the ways they did that was through mini grants. They had maybe like $600 or something like that available for like smaller trips. If you were, for example, going to take your your biology solo independent research, travel up the coast of Maine somewhere and like take samples, right? From in my case, it was, I'm going to have a quick travel down to New York City to immerse myself in the hip hop culture there while I'm taking hip hop classes, while I am writing stuff about the hip hop culture, and then having an additional opportunity to like immerse myself in there can bring new research opportunities that wouldn't be available at the actual college. They have I think again, like mad love and respect and gratitude to Bowdoin for the support that they had in a way that was so in line with allowing individuals to like dig into their creative projects and just allowing and just allowing them to be like well facilitated projects.
That's also like 2019. You did an internship and we're working with Beatbox, the American Beatbox.
Yeah, American Beatbox.
And you were doing, whether it was making spreadsheets or doing the audio for them, and just being there for them. That was part of the thing that we were obviously encouraged, but you were able to do with these types of things. And again, it's just mind blowing to me, because had I say 10 years ago, I don't see that would have been as possible as it is now. And maybe it would have taken more people to go and put it out there and see what happens, because the worst thing that's going to happen is you get a no. But I mean,
yeah, exactly. I mean, and I think the other side of that coin that's really important to recognize and notice is that like, it was made possible, but like, let's not forget that it's made possible to me, and by definition, not other people. I mean, when I'm presenting as like a white able-bodied man and everything in a higher education context that has always been kind of tailored for a certain class demographic and race demographic, that all gets built in. And it's really important to recognize that as I am getting these opportunities, I feel a really significant responsibility to make the most of them, because they're not available to other people who have just as much claim and right and would do just as good of a job exploring these things, but just don't have that opportunity, for a variety of reasons. Like it's really important to recognize and mention that as well.
Absolutely, and again, it's just for me, I'm just happy to go and see it being done and see the ball starting to roll. And as that happens more and more, it's going to eventually continue to expand. And I can't wait to see, professors of beatbox, not just in name given to people, but in actual PhDs held. It would be awesome if we could figure that out. And it is a possibility. It is a possibility, and I would even say probability that's going to happen eventually.
That is that's definitely something I've been thinking about is post-secondary education. I have completed my bachelor's degree. I'm definitely strongly considering some kind of additional educational path for myself that very well might be wrapped up in stuff like continuing to explore speech pathology, as one of those scientific tie-ins, continuing to examine sociological issues and working on addressing those in the microcosm of beatboxing, but again applying it to that much larger context of the global community. So there's lots of really interesting and enticing kind of avenues we can start exploring this stuff with. And as we're feeling more and more open to that kind of creative input from different sources, like I'm going to be fascinated at the like what is the next big intersection between beatbox and say sports, or like beatbox and like you name it, right? Like it really can be anything, and it's like I'm always kind of like on keeping my eye out for like what the professional sphere can look like for us and for our community moving forward.
100%. And things like getting it into the education system at an earlier age and presenting it at places. You did a thing integrating beatbox into the classroom in New Jersey and also in Pittsburgh, 2 different conferences where you were helping with that, and being able to go and put it there and actually have it taken seriously. Again, I just love the idea of, not the idea, I love it when it's taken seriously. It's not a gimmick, it's an actual art form. People are going to go and take it seriously, and as it should be. And when somebody takes the time to go and actually think it through, write it up properly, appropriately, and actually present it formally, being able to go and shed light on it to people that have no idea. And what do you find when you make a presentation, or when you have been able to go and add it into your studies? What is the reaction you get from people, quote unquote, professionals, and or people that would have the keys to the grant money?
There's definitely been a variety of reactions. I mean, there's been everything from like, oh, hey, that's cute, good luck, like, cool, good for you, But at the same time, there's been some people who have been pretty mind blown and just can't wait to get involved and just see the like creative passion plus like carefully pre-practiced main points of like making sure that the elevator speech is really tight, like make sure that like that couple points that really kind of sell the whole thing. If you can mix that with being able to demonstrate the creative passion for the art form, the responses are at least in the case of my track record pretty good. Then again, moving forward and whatnot, like as I'm, for example, entering into my second year being a music teacher, but my first year due to the pandemic actually teaching music students in front of me, right? So since graduating in 2020, I have become a high school music teacher at a school. Woohoo! Right? Again, incorporating beatboxing into the classroom, Yes, we have certainly spent some time in class so far this year talking about beatboxing as an introduction to our rhythm, to our rhythm unit. Like we're going to be like approaching that in a way that is like both culturally responsible, in a way that like does not necessarily always rely on centering like the 18th century dead white guy musicians, which is like very prominent in music education. But it also gives us like a lot of really great insights to a lot of the foundations of rhythm and of performance and of like growing your confidence in your voice, all that good stuff. Then again, like in the context of the pandemic right now, high school students are not necessarily going to be the most like jumping at the opportunity like just to make weird sounds in the middle of their classroom. Like at the very least, the majority of my responses to that in the classroom so far have been rather like, oh, Mr. G is so weird. Like, why is he making us do this? I have no idea what's going on. So I think it's pretty fair to have a variety of different responses to it.
Absolutely. And that's congratulations, by the way. That's amazing that you got yourself a job teaching and can go and put beatboxing in the curriculum as you see and can make it work. And
So
I
much
know,
gratitude for the opportunity. Yeah.
I know also guys like Chris Lees has also done music teaching actual music, and I know that there's a bunch of people that have it. When you start, let's go and just get into your the beginnings and everything because it's interesting. Um, in one of your songs, I might be reading into this too much, but seemingly when you make your lyrics, they're pretty they're brought up by stories and or experiences that you have, and for your original songs, obviously. But you in When I Go, you had said
Yeah.
you had said something about your nana playing piano and
Yes.
was an introduction to music for you. Is that kind of where you started getting your feel for music? And
Oh,
am I reading into
definitely.
that too much?
No, not at all. In fact, I received an outpouring of support for people who thought that she had passed away or something. She's all right. She's good. I just spoke with her last night. You know, like glad to hear it. Staying safe and healthy and vaccinating and stuff like that. You got to do it. um, but I just wanted to write a song like that brought forth that kind of imagery of the like childhood innocence in the way that you absorb your music and the world around you like a sponge a little bit, without the kind of um, lens of anxiety or over worrying about like is it good or not, you know.
Mm.
There was I largely, and we can talk more about like second devices and stuff a little bit, but like largely brought on by the kind of tumultuous conversations about second devices and about the competitive stuff and all the different kind of online and whatnot competitions I had been doing. I wanted to take that opportunity when I was like kind of stripped back to like just the 505, when I was kind of stripped back to just like wanting to ground myself and like what music means to me, as opposed to being kind of focused on like, well, okay, I got to make sure I have a dubstep song, I got to make sure I have a really sick house drop, I got to make sure I have, you know, like the greatest new effects combo that no one's gonna see coming. Like I wanted to kind of strip back from some of that stuff for a minute and just like forget about the competition part and just like write a song that was meaningful to me. So grounding myself in that kind of in those memories and those stories of like my nana, who's you know, she has been like very much the foundation for some of my kind of love of music and taking it with me when I go out into the world. I remember like all of the, you know, times when we get together, when my family would be together, or there would be, you know, Christmas carols or something like that, that it was a little reminder to myself to forget a little bit about the competitiveness and about the kind of over presented, like it's a performance. I wanted to peel back that mask a little bit of like performing and being the best and like trying really hard to be impressive and stuff, and just like it was much more of like a meditative, self-reflective moment for myself, to put myself back in that headspace of like, I just love music, man. I just love to listen to this stuff. Like it means so much to me. It's a way of connecting. It is deeply foundational to how like my worldview is, like all that stuff. And then when there's so much drama about like competitiveness and second devices and all this extra stuff that kind of just gets in the way of it sometimes, it's important to be able to do that because that's a hugely impactful way of connecting with our community. Like it's really deeply tied to like what we're all doing here. But at the same time, like it was a reminder to do that stuff in a way that is authentic to myself, which I think has been like, as you mentioned, the stuff that you can read into, like reading into those original songs.
And I can notice too, like, actually, you hit on a good point. I find a lot of the time too, some people get caught up in the whole idea of just try to get really caught up in the battle scene, which is great for improving your skill. I love the battle scene. I love the competitive nature of it. I love how it expands. But recently, as it's continually up, you know, just increasing skill level, I guess you can say, and techniques and technicalities, it's getting to a hard point where, especially the last battle that they judged where it was one of the hardest ones to judge. They said between Rhythma and Sorrow and Inky, they voted in a split decision when it was Robin versus Frosty, and they all kind of put it out there, the idea of like, how do you judge this now when it gets to a certain level?
Right.
Because what are you judging it on necessarily, other than taste, preference, when you can go and look at the technicalities, but each of them are making such an individual, amazing piece of music. It's an actual piece of music.
Oh yeah.
And how do you judge that necessarily, right? It's not like, well, it's not something that you can actually go and say a person ran faster, somebody can throw farther. It's not an actual sport like that. But when you look at it, how do you judge that? So what would you how do you interpret that? How do you see that going in the future? Well, it's going to continually just keep on moving forward, but having that structured out 3 minute 30 round, let's say, if that's what you're being put into, and you have to create a piece into that, and you have to do the things like you're saying before this piece, thinking about how to do all these, fitting into these categories, making these things happen for points. How do you see that moving forward, changing to adapt to the idea of just having music being out there? And do you think there's going to be that odd space of how to judge it competition wise? I believe competitions are going to continue and grow, but how is it going to be judged when you get to such a level where everybody is putting out amazing pieces of music, and it's going to be those personal decision or personal preference? I think it's going to be eventually what it is, but just you're a well-learned man, and
I think that it's largely going to come back. I want to push us in a direction where we, without like sacrificing the creativity and like the bound, like, you know, the moving the horizon, you know, back and back every time there's a new amazing artist that's making something incredible, without sacrificing the creativity of all those things. I think it is really essential, like in the same way that I was kind of reminding myself of like my musical roots with that song, When I Go. I see a lot of future for this community, especially if we remind ourselves of where we're coming from, right? Like, I think that one of the big things that matters a lot to me, and became a big part of my academic study of this stuff, became a big part of like how I teach this music, right? Is grounding stuff in authenticity, in cultural context, in the history of this art form. I had a stream the other day, I think last weekend. I did a live stream with Remy Rhyme from Canada, my man. And I talked a little bit about, you know, he and I had this great back and forth about the philosophy behind the tracks. Like I saw two very different demonstrations of a philosophy of looping, right? Like the epistemology of looping, like the how we know what we know about looping. The philosophy that I saw, for example, Frosty demonstrating and performing, was one where the Loopstation was being actively like hidden. The idea was to be like, it's not gonna feel like looping. It's not gonna look like looping. It's gonna be like using silent record, using longer, or rather, you know, using a lot of sound design pieces that come in, and don't necessarily like repeat as much in the way that like we've seen before, right? The philosophy there is very much like, we're gonna hide the fact that there are constraints to this music. We want to make it sound like we're just hitting play on a song and it's awesome the whole time. Like the idea of, as a philosophy, as an artist, approaching the very real constraints that we have with like what physical hardware we can use, what the rules of the game are, what the, you know, voice triggered beatbox sounds can give to you, right? The philosophy I saw was just like, hide all of that and try and make it as incredible as possible. Like, and the only caveat is that, like, yeah, like we know it was all performed live, we know it was all done looping wise, but like it doesn't even sound like that. Whereas for Robin, the philosophy of looping that I saw was like, lean into the fact that you're a looper, you're creating this stuff live. The like the chart of energy over time in Robin's performance was like the energy like just kind of just went up steadily, like even through the end of the track. Whereas if we chart like the moments of energy over time for Frosty's track, like there's like clear structural build up drops, right? Whereas like spike and then drop, spike and then drop. I think that kind of structural choices musically, they belay a certain philosophy about looping that I think was just super different between the two pieces. And as we're considering, for example, like the second devices, as we're considering stuff like having a 505 only category and an anything goes category, because there's like really kind of diverging into two streams or whatever. Robin's performance really stuck out to me. And yeah, admittedly, even beside like personal preference type things about like vocal music over EDM or whatever, but it was the fact that the way he was performing made it very clear, like, yeah, I'm a looper. I am looping stuff. I'm making longer phrases. I'm doing stuff that like built into the way of performing is like at every stage you still feel the looping. You still feel the loop station as part of the performance. So I think that like it as we are considering stuff about like how we run events, how we run like how we structure battles, how we where we put our energies into technology wise, right? What we as a community decide are like the best sounds versus like the not as good sounds, like how we structure as a community our aesthetic choices, all those things, right? It's all going to come back to those kinds of roots of like, do we want to, as a community, make the choice to be like, yes, looping is the philosophy that's going to define how we create our music and how we perform? Or do we really want it to make it like go beyond plus ultra a la My Hero Academia, like just go beyond, like make it so the technology isn't even there and it's just like fully unlimited creativity stuff, right? I think there's definitely a space for limits on creativity being leaned into. I think Robin really leaned into his limits, right? He was like, I have a very small boat, right? Like I'm making something and I'm making sure that you all know this is happening in a very constrained space and I'm going to make everything out of it as possible. Whereas I think Frosty's performance was like, yeah, I have all these tools. I'm going to pretend as if, or I'm going to perform as if there's no limit to what I can do, and I'll show you just how far I can go with that.
And do you a question that I've asked now to the past few loopers that I've had on, which have been MH and Josh O.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a question that I ask and bring up is, as looping progresses, right, seemingly a lot of loopers that are excelling at it know their technology, but also have a very a musical background to them when it comes to playing piano, having music theory knowledge and all these things. But the beatbox somewhat comes secondary, and they have basic sounds, or being able to go and manipulate the sound of, and being able to go and make that some crazy bass note, being able to go and change that, all this stuff. So a question that I want to ask you is, do you see the looping world, is it going to go and have really taking on to, you need to be having music, you need to know your music theory, you need to be a tech master when it comes to your machine, really know that as well? Or do you think there still will be space for somebody who excels in solo beatboxing, applying that into the loop station with less knowledge of the two?
I mean, I think the most responsible thing to do as an artist is try and pick up as much skill as you can in as many different parts of those areas as possible. But again, I definitely recognize the way that like you only have so many hours in the day to practice this stuff, and you have to make informed choices about what you spend that time practicing on, right? For a lot of people, if you spend enough time, I mean, I think about a lot of stuff just in life as if it was like an RPG video game, where like you can put one more point on your stats for this skill or that skill, right? Like if you only have enough level up points to put, I'm going to put 5 points on my solo beatboxing today. I'm going to put 10 points on my ability to turn that sound into like a crazy synthesized loop, right? if you get to a certain level of solo beatboxing foundations, you can go this far with looping if you learn that far of technology, right? It all depends on how those little parts of the pie chart that you spend your time developing musical skills with. Like if it's 100% solo beatboxing and then or 99% and 1% technical knowledge, you're only going to be able to go so far on the loop, right? But if it's all technical knowledge and your solo beatboxing stuff is not as strong, or like your rhythmic intuition is not as strong, that kind of stuff is going to show up as well. You know, I think that manifests a lot in that question of style. I think a lot of people's style on the Loopstation can be pretty clearly attributed to their like how they spend those XP points or whatever, if you want to continue the metaphor, right? But I think it does like really come back to how these individual artists are prioritizing what they want to do musically, right? If they want to win a Loopstation battle, they have to consider all of the context and the kind of pretext that, or the kind of like existing examples of battle culture, like who's won before. You gotta do something kind of like that, right? I think the people who like win controversial battles like Robin over Frosty is because of the way that he went beyond that question of trying to win the battle. I think Robin was demonstrating a more complete, or not necessarily complete, because that implies a lot of like incompleteness on Frosty's part, which is just not the case. But his particular stylistic choices and whatnot just demonstrate that he has, you know, put his XP in on certain things and not on others. But in the future, like as more and more loopers are coming into it, I think it is like, yeah, like you only have so much time in the day to practice stuff. You got to get this far with solo beatboxing. You got to get this far with learning music theory. You got to get this far with learning the technical ins and outs of the Loopstation, which can be certainly made easier by like people teaching you, right? So like having more and more access to like educational, you know, beatbox education kind of things. That's really gonna help push the whole community forward. So we can go further together. But at the end of the day, the musicians who choose to make themselves as widely capable in as many different places as possible, and make that investment in stuff that like might not seem immediately helpful for like the short term vision, right? The longer term vision musicians are going to have more success because they're expanding on stuff that is hard for them, not just capitalizing on stuff that's already easy.
That's well said. I believe there's lots of well, you can see it across the board. Successful people usually do the things that are hard and they're not good at, and power through that as it allows them to catch up to things that they are good at. And I'm wondering though, is there going to be a time and place that there's going to be somebody who, in a beatbox competition, is basically what the kind of thing I was alluding to. The idea is at GBB, is the Loopstation category, in your opinion, still a beatboxing competition? Because is it going to come to a point where somebody can have mastered, let's say, the Mark II or the Mark II in a secondary device to the point of just being able to go and make complete pieces, amazing pieces that are worthy of winning rounds, worthy of doing all these things and being a champion, let's say, but the skill on the beatbox level, if you were to say do a solo beatbox, they would be having just a and humming. Do you think that would still put them in the category of a beatboxer, or is it going to be this not subgenre, but just a new thing called a looper specifically? You know, like
this really gets into my thoughts on second devices, because I have been considering this stuff and really thinking deep on these kinds of questions. Really for the whole past year. Especially with the Korg, right? The Korg microsampler was like a big, like there was a lot of hullabaloo over using that because of its like keyboard shape, right? And I think that there's lots to be said for the way that how that particular device is thought about and handled. And like I particularly will disagree with the I guess like established Swissbeatbox battle rules and whatnot, on the premise that Swissbeatbox has a stake in whether or not that answer, like the answer to your question, whether or not the looping champion is still going to be considered a beatboxing champion of some kind, right? Swissbeatbox has a business stake in keeping that as a beatbox champion, right? They have to maintain and do everything in their power as a company to continue to present beatboxers who are using a Loopstation to create music as a beatboxing art form. Whereas I would particularly start seeing this the further we go with it, the more technology gets involved and the more people who even on limited technology keep developing more and more creative ways of producing their music, it moves the needle towards live producer, like a live producing style of performing, as opposed to a beatboxing style of performing, right? And I think that it is important to recognize that, like, at GBB, if that's the question, right? Like, yeah, they are a beatbox championship event. They're a beatbox champion at the looping thing. But we can't just ignore the way that it is essential for Swissbeatbox and for that event that those stay understood in the context of being a beatboxer, right? Which is why I think that there's been so much like really great and effective conversations happening around second devices, like because it's making us butt up against that question of like, where is that line between beatbox champion and live producer champion, right? And I think that like when we mix into it the cultural context of like beatboxing going from like the underground dip from the consolidation of corporate consolidation of hip hop in the early 90s, seeing it get brought over into the European scene and get influenced by all of the EDM stuff over here, all of the new technology being worked in, right? When we see those kinds of historical cultural influences, and when we see the like the aesthetics of like what sounds good to the crowd, right? We as a community have a lot of responsibility to be clear and to have these conversations and to not hide from the fact that these are influenced by more than just individual performers making music that they like, right? We have a whole kind of cultural context around this music, and that includes stuff like the class association of music theory, right? Like we talked about music theory being related so much to like 18th century European guys, you know, whereas music theory is really just the theory of music of like tools. I mean, when I'm teaching music theory in, say, a Loopstation lesson, I don't put it in the context of like on paper sheet music. I put it in the context of like, hey, you want to learn about a major scale? Let's learn about a major scale, but in terms of like the granular delay settings on the Loopstation, so we can understand whole steps and half steps based on like numbers of, you know, sequencer numbers, stuff like that. So it's still all the same concept. It's still all the same way of using a language that we have kind of developed over the last hundreds of years to ascribe to music. But we just can't forget the way that like the keyboard, right? That implies a certain class. It implies a certain historical context for music that does not line up with the beatbox context, right? Because beatboxing as a historical culture, right, is very much not related to stuff like classical piano concerts, right? Like it's coming from a very different musical culture and context, right? I think that when like it's easier to see a synthesizer or a not synthesizer, it's easier to see a like SY or a Helix or a TC Helicon voice live, whatever, right? Because they don't look like something that immediately, because of that like dissonance culturally in terms of the background of like what these instruments look like, they don't have the same kind of breaking the facade, right? The facade that these Loopstation battles are not live producing, right? Like there's a whole important like mask over this whole conversation that is dependent on needing it to be beatboxing, or else like there's a whole new thing there, and like then it's not the same. Like we've now defined an out group, right? If we want to keep looping connected with beatboxing, which Swissbeatbox has to do because like that's an important company model for them, right? There has to be a way to pull that, like, you know, you have to be able to swing that distinction. You have to be able to only use devices that don't break the facade and get people thinking, oh wait, keyboards, pianos, like jazz music, playing the piano, like that's not beatboxing, right? Whereas even though the technology is less complicated and more analog and more sample based and more straight out of hip hop than say a new age 2019 era like guitar, like a synthesizer thing with oscillators made for guitar distortion stuff, right? Even though that stuff is actually less culturally rooted in stuff like sampling and hip hop, which is like what hip hop is, like how hip hop makes music is way closer to how this Korg works, because I'm sampling and remixing stuff as opposed to you know, generating melodies and doing sequencing and stuff that's built out of like the EDM influence from Europe. When we allow the kind of surface level and superficial associations of these different instruments to cloud our ability to see their deeper connections to the art form and to the cultural context itself, we get kind of lost. I think it's important, like, to tie it back, to circle back a little bit to me feeling lost in this whole world and just being like, y'all, forget it. I got to make a song about my grandma because she's how I got into music, right? Like, we got to go back to the roots a little bit. We got to go back and recognize the history and the cultural context of how we got here so we can have those informed decisions that I think we have to have as a community about where we're going to go next.
I do agree with that. There's definite conversations that need to be had to go and figure out where the direction is and what is best. Not actually, sorry. That's not a good way of saying it, but what is the most agreed upon thing in the current in the current group of people that are leading the community, and overall where people want it to go to suit the group that is going to be affected by it immediately. Because again, I can see in a lot of the pieces that you did, like Sour Candy, You Gotta Be, and all these had the Korg on it, and you're using Korg, right? And you can see how that would work. But if you think back to, I forget what round it was, but MB14 with an RC505, made it a pad, made it, and made it
like an MPC straight out of hip hop,
right. So what's necessarily the difference? And this is something that, again, the conversation needs to be really thought through and figured out, because if you do that on your one shots, on a thing where you have one shots on an RC505 comparatively to having it on a keyboard but still making it a one shot where you're playing it like that.
Yeah, when the technology is the same, but just the look of the machine, right? Like I can go into like the specific technology, the stuff. It's like an analog repitching thing. It actually plays my sample back. Like after I go da, it'll play da, but a little bit faster. It goes da, like it's the exact same technology. It's analog technology of just playing the sample back at a certain preset ratio of speed to like slow it down or speed up like you would on a vinyl. Like it's the exact is that the technology is that old, and it's really just the fact that there is a culturally ascribed connection between the shape of these keys here, right? And a very different musical culture, right? That I think that we as beatboxers are pretty loath to admit still counts, right? Like it's I think that it's pretty easy to, like, in the rush to try and keep yourself like, oh yeah, it's still all beatboxing, it's still all voice triggered, like that you're just playing it off a piano, right? Like that can't fly, like that's not beatbox, right? It has to stay culturally rooted, and it goes back to that idea of like the philosophy of looping, right? Are we leaning into and celebrating and pointing out and performing in a way that makes very clear the constrictions that are upon us as a only voice, only beatbox style of performing? Or do we as a community decide that the thing that's most valuable and most important for us is to perform in a way that makes all those constrictions disappear or like are hidden under the surface. I think is a pretty clear indication from Sorrow, Inky, and the third judge, who I forget who that was. Rhythmide, right. I think it's a pretty clear call from them three, at least, that at the very least in that battle, they preferred to see Robin leaning into and celebrating and creating in that very clearly defined musical space, as opposed to trying to present this front that there aren't constrictions to your music.
Well, it was also a split decision, which makes it very, very hard because
exactly.
Inky did lean for Frosty. So obviously there's difference of opinions, and that's why we have different judges with opinions of their own. And it's when you look at different showcases, and the more and more people when they have the opportunity of just showcasing, let's say a judge showcase, I've been loving watching what Gene does, and I love watching. Sure. I've had the opportunity, to see him live at Asia Champs, at GBB, at recently there's a video that just came out today of Chrysalis, and there's a Chrysalis and Gene as Spider Horse.
Yeah.
But they're doing a video where there's drum pads happening, there's pre-triggered things, he has preloaded settings, they're singing together, beatboxing together to make a stage show that's the quality is amazing. So
there's some like purist mindset thing that's like it has to be just beatboxing, right? And I think that comes from like the popularity of people like MB14 for a while, right? The popularity of solo beatbox battles. I think that there's a purist mindset around beatboxing, is like no technology, no pre-sampled stuff, no drum machine, stuff like that. Whereas if we look back at it, like beatboxing in the 80s, like Lottie Dottie, The Show, right? We got Dougie Fresh, like with the Get Fresh crew in 1985, beatboxing in the middle of a bunch of, like, he's got his whole crew there. He's got a dialogic conversational performance with another rapper, Slick Rick, right? We've got him like doing sound effects, rapping, beatboxing in between drum kit breakdowns. Like that is as much a legitimate and purist form of performing this art as the just voice stuff is. I think that we can get a little bit wrapped up in like rules for competitions and the ways that those start ascribing the aesthetics that we care about, as opposed to more just musical reasons for liking the sound of certain things. I mean, I think that Spider Horse has always been, and obviously, they're just the Beatbox House and Barry Wom and all those guys more generally, they've been pushing like, we're gonna make something that sounds awesome. However that ends up happening, right? Spider Horse, they're making their whole stuff with the drum machine, they're like playing guitar, looping the guitar, playing some samples, doing some production off the RC505, mixing in some singing, some beatboxing, all those things, right? I think that when we get too lost and wrapped up in applying rules to ourselves when we don't need to, it makes it a lot harder to lean into the like very real and very human connection with an audience. When an audience sees you performing in such a cool and original and creative way, that's really going to be the mark of success, and that's really going to be how we as an audience, like like at GBB, the stuff that the audience and the stuff that the way that the event is set up, we decide what sounds good to us. We decide how our music is going to develop. And I think that is important for all of us to recognize all of the ways that stuff outside of like personal preference gets built into that. Like the way that the GBB stage is set up is going to impact like whose music sounds better. Like the way that we present our music, the way that we like the verb of actual musicking, the way we do our music impacts how we like what we as artists tell our audience is good about our music. Like if the bass is the most important part of our music, we're going to have big subwoofers on a big stage and people are going to go crazy at it, right? In a different musical culture, if that's not the thing that is most important to you as a musician, you're going to perform in a different way that makes what is important to you clear and presented, right? So like back to beatboxing, like whether it's just solo beatboxing or any other creative collaborative application of different art of different tools to present what you want to sound like. We can do both and do more and do all of it, but we just have to be more conscious and aware of the ways that our decisions about all kinds of other stuff, about getting hung up about whether it's a keyboard or a synthesizer, even though they're doing the same thing, that stuff is what's really getting in the way of like the creative piece to it, right? I think that like having boundaries is a great way to generate creativity, but when the boundaries start like altering how we think about the music and the why behind the music, that's where I say like we got to bring it back to the roots again.
And you can see the majority of people that have success outside of the beatbox battle world and still use beatboxing, guys like Beatbox and Dub Effects and Sam Perry and Beardy Man and Honeycomb and all these different people that have used it with all these different machines.
I'm working on it. I'm getting there.
hey, and Galush,
got some
let's go.
live shows coming up. If you're in New York City, come do all that stuff, you know.
But these people go and push the
they do.
the idea, and they still have the roots of beatboxings there. The art form is shown, but it's used in such a way that it's going to be presenting a piece of music that people can connect with without these constraints of time, needing 3 minutes, 30 seconds, without the constraints of trying to go and get in these certain pockets to go and win points necessarily.
I think that's the difference between
the artistry of it.
Yeah, that's the difference between like the on the one hand, like the party trick and the stadium filling performers, right? Like it's one thing to be like, oh, look what I'm doing with my voice, look what I'm doing just with these constrictions, versus with all of these constrictions, what am I doing? You know?
Yes, and we'll see. I love that there's a lot of people are have and still do. What the heck happened there? Just a reverb kind of been creeped up. But I love seeing the fact that people have and still do. And
what was that? I couldn't hear you.
I don't know, but it's again, just watching people go and taking it their own way and really doing something that's just like amazing is pretty much what I'm getting down to. I love seeing people become the artists that they can be, and finding their sound, finding their voice, finding their style, and presenting it in such a way that still includes beatboxing, because that's kind of where it all started for people like myself to go and have this community and see it grow and blossom.
Yeah.
I want to go and ask you though. So, kid from Connecticut, because you started having musical influence in your life. You moved around. You said that you played trombone, tuba, and jazz and marching bands. And then when you moved to North Carolina, you miss out on these opportunities and you find yourself getting into choirs and choruses, learning how to go and do a cappella versions of music and classically trained vocal lessons. And when you think back even further, you said that the first time you really saw beatboxing was somebody that your parents worked with at an open mic, and you saw a little beatbox teaching you one or two sounds, which you brought to a class and first performed in a medley in grade 7 or 8, where a teacher heard some beatboxing coming out of your mouth and said, "Hey, we could use that for this pop thing." So give me a little bit more after that story. So you hear the guy doing it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was it was a high school student at the high school that I was living at the time. It was a boarding type school, so I was living in the same area as all the students. And at dinner one time, there was like a dude who was breakdancing and a guy who was beatboxing for it, right? So that first kind of imagery of beatboxing being right out of like the b-boy and the like old school hip hop kind of aesthetic, right? So he's teaching me like the nice like inward, I call it an inward M snare. I think people have like a PEH kind of way of writing it. But that was the first beatbox sound I ever learned, as if it was a sound. Like I had been like, running around doing like machine guns all little kid more all
Shout out to Mark Martin.
Earlier.
Head Talk. Let's go.
Yeah, right. But again, like tracking the influences, I got really interested in anything I could get my hands on instrumentally. Played the trombone, the tuba, the baritone horn. My music teacher got mad at me once because he came in and I was just like messing around with the bass clarinet that I took out of one of his crates. I was like, oh, this looks cool, you know. But when I got into high school, there was no instrumental program, so all of a sudden everything was voice. Everything was like, okay, we're gonna implement this creative constraint on you and see where you can take just your voice because there's no instrumental program in high school. And I ended up getting really interested in, you know, finding alongside stuff like the a cappella world of like collegiate a cappella groups, professional a cappella groups, stuff like Pentatonics and all the other ones from like the Sing Off and stuff like that. All of that world for sure. But at the same time, finding people like Dub FX, the Tom Thumbs of the world, the Dave Crow up in UK, you know, finding all of those things and seeing this kind of Venn diagram of vocal music start showing up, like the a cappella side and the beatbox side, it really kind of tracked me. Like that was the track I was on all through high school. And when I got to college, one of the really big things about like why I was so interested in figuring this stuff out academically was because I saw that Venn diagram. I saw like these two worlds, like they're doing similar stuff, but like what's going on between them? Like what's in the middle of that Venn diagram? And now there are some, you know, like competitive beatboxers, like I know that Match is one of them. Plant, like the Forest Fire, the tag team from the US. They both have done a lot of stuff in the professional a cappella world as well, right? So having people who are occupying that Venn diagram space between a cappella, which has its own kind of like cultural lens and logic behind it, and seeing how that compares with the hip hop, with the hip hop and the beatboxing stuff, that became a big focus of my academic work, like teasing out those kind of dual histories. Yeah, but again, when it comes down to it, the big thing that got me into beatboxing was losing out on having an instrumental program, and it's like it ended up being like the best thing for me. But I was pretty bummed about it at the time. I was like, oh, I wanted to play more trombone.
You said in an interview that losing that exact statement, but you said losing the instruments pushed me to thinking and expanding on what can I do with just my voice in this scenario.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is I like that quote. I do like that quote because it's interesting the way that a young mind would look at that and be like, well, what can I do? How can I figure this out? And have coaching and choirs and people to go and work with you and show you. But when do you actually go and find, because you also said in another interview that you the first time you actually went after going down the rabbit hole, as everybody does on YouTube, and now that it's available, as now it's available, but you go and you find yourself going and watching all the people, and then you say a Beatbox House concert was the one that kind of led you into seeing.
I dragged my poor old middle-aged white dude from Connecticut dad through the underground hip hop scene of New York City for a concert. I headed down to the Poisson Rouge, the hip hop joint in New York City. Awesome venue and everything. But it was like, hey, I've seen these guys all over YouTube for a year and a half now. Let me go, like, just see what I can find, you know? Like, oh my gosh, I'll see them on stage. I'll figure out what it's like. I see all these people talking about, like, oh, it's so much better live. Oh, like, the bass hits you in the face. You can feel your whole body vibrate. It's like, what? I was like, yeah, I got to go find this stuff and start tracking it down. And I just, like, found some information online and was like, okay, cool. These people are gonna be at this place. I'll go see them live. Like, I thought that was gonna be it. And then I actually, like, got to meet and chat and hang out with some people. I think, like, Bloomer was there. I think he was one of the first people I was talking to, just, like, in the crowd and stuff. They did a split bill with the Lesson GK, and even since then, people like Rabbi Darkside, some of, like, those amazing, like, underground hip hop scene people. I still follow all of them too, because, like, I follow almost everybody that I've ever seen perform live. Because, like, that's just, like, such a cool connective thing, especially just tracking through all the social media and whatnot. But like after going down the rabbit hole, getting getting brought into it live and everything, it made it go from like the kind of like any other TV show or movie. Like they might as well have been like Marvel superheroes, as real as they were on screen. Like they were about as real on screen as like Thor and Thanos or whatever, right? But like going to see them in live and be like, oh dude, the big purple alien just walked around the corner, like all of a sudden it's real. So that was like what really got me kind of excited and hooked into like, I gotta go back to live events. I've got to go learn everything I can about this, because there's a whole other world out there, well away from YouTube.
100%. And you can see too that 2017, I think, is the first time I see you at an American Champs.
2017 was the debut
of Galush and jumping on. And before then, though, you were touring around with a cappella groups, and
I was,
and getting experience and doing tours and everything. So you're getting some definitely wear on your soles when it came to getting your feet ready for doing shows and performing and getting comfortable with Loopstation. And come up to Great North, big ups.
Yeah.
Love to have you there. And
where I met Remy for the first time. He and I have since done a lot of creative projects together, a couple collabs and stuff.
Yeah, and you also in that time as well, not only took fourth place in the Loopstation, but you also ended up getting into the solo because somebody dropped out, and you were gracious enough to then jump in last minute. And your first SBX shout out within a couple years in 2018. You get an SBX shout out, and actually it's funny, I found a little tidbit of I'm sitting in the background of that shout out, just sitting on the phone. I forget what I was calling. It was something I was doing.
Everyone's commenting like, oh dude, I hope Scott Jackson's okay. He looks so dejected. Whatever happened to him? Like, oh no.
No, I'm not sure what it was. Probably something to do with about going and paying a venue or doing something like that. So
just handling the business,
doing the stuff. But but again, you get an SBX shout out. And you get
before I had earned one, or well before I was like ready to have one, super early on. I mean, I think that's one of the things that like, I like, you gotta appreciate the really early chapters of artistic development, and like it's so much more important in those chapters to have even like the one or two people who like support you when you're bad, when you're just not good at it yet, when you've just not had the time, you haven't had the 10,000 hours yet, right? My college had a graduation type party thing for the 2020 graduates who got sent home early, as like a bring everybody back and like celebrate things and do something there and have like a meaningful moment of closure on campus. And one of the most important things about that whole trip was that a guy who was a senior when I was a sophomore, right? He's a couple years older than me. His name is Eric. He really did just some incredible stuff for me in that like really essential, really important, like early chapter of finding the artistic voice. I mean, he pushed me more than any other student at the school, at the very least, to like dig into the history, to like dig into the hip hop and understand more beyond just like what I was hearing, and more and more on like the human level, the speaking truth to power stuff, like understanding all that. And he was one of the people who I really did not appreciate at the time how significant his support was. But looking back, like he was one of the only people in the environment that I was spending the majority of my time outside of like YouTube and outside of like the one or two events I could get to a year, that was like, yes, keep going, do it, like learn this stuff, practice this stuff. I will like he and I ran the Saturday Cypher. It was like a hip hop cypher thing that would happen on Saturdays. And he like and his support down at the pub like just around campus somewhere. It was there was a really cool like library where the radio station was. It was like a library, like the stacks with shelves, but they're all CDs and records, as opposed to a bunch of books in there. So there's a really cool spot there, in like the basement of a library. But like having the chance to like see him again at that graduation party thing a couple weeks ago, like the biggest moment of closure for me was being able to take a minute, pause, reflect, realize just how important and impactful having a couple people who really believe in you and really push you in those early stages. Like having that Swissbeatbox shout out, like that was just Pony being like, hey, whoever's next, come on over, right? I was like, oh, you're next? Cool. Galush, come over here. Right. And I was like, oh, what? I have never done this before. I have nothing prepared. I'm just like, I'm so unready. Right. But that kind of like really early encouragement and really early belief means so much more at the time than like tens of bazillions of views, right? If you can make it there, right? Because without those first chapters and without those first couple people believing in you, like you don't make it that far.
100%. And it's the people that are the fans from early on that definitely give you that confidence and give you that encouragement needed and support, and maybe also tell you that there's certain things you could do better and have that.
Yeah, right.
I was talking to a guy, my buddy Switch B there, and he's a breakdancer, and he was saying when he was starting up, there was a move that he got, and he was practicing this move, and he goes and shows one of the older guys, one of the peers and older guys, essentially, hey, check out this thing I can do. Just tell me what you think. And the person sees it and says straight up that I wouldn't use that in a battle. I wouldn't use that yet. And, he kind of said like, he felt weird about that for a second because he's like, what? Like it's supposed to like this, this is sick. It's sick. It's dope. And then when he reflects back to think on it, it's like the amount of hard work he put in to go and improve that and work on it because somebody that was close to him told him the truth. And when you think about it, he's like, he thought back, and when asked about it, the person that gave him that constructive criticism basically said, well, I'm your friend. Think of someone that wasn't what they would say if they were, being brutally honest. So
yeah,
it's good to have people that keep you in check and push you.
Have your hundreds of shows at your college with like 3 or 4 people in the audience because they just really like you as a person. They really hope that, when it comes down to you, right? Exactly, right?
And again, man, so you've been able to prove yourself on the solo tip on Loopstation. You've been in top 16 for American Champs. 2018, you were 2-time now finalist when it comes to the American Champs Loopstation. You took a Elda Sung Beats, who obviously is amazing. Big shout out to him.
Speaking of professional beatboxers doing their thing, he just had an interview come out where he's talking about his entire career as a professional beatboxer. So go check that out.
Yes, and
awesome guy.
Yeah, he's definitely a good person. And you've also had some W's and taken some wins. You beat Inertia when it came to the Legends battle, and he's gonna be he won Great North, and he also is gonna be in GBB. And that was 2019
solo. 2019 solo battle against Inertia. Right. That was like a week or two after Great North.
Right. So you've been doing your thing, and then you make it to 2019 again. Devin Gwynn ended up taking you in the finals when it came to Loopstation in 2019.
What a great example of like a live battle where having the crowd is essential, right? Like the relaxed, the confidence, right? The having had the time, just the time booked, like performing in front of lots of people, right? That really showed up huge for him, and that was a huge part of his win. He totally earned it, like with the crowd in the room at the moment.
Absolutely, and that's something that people who sit and have never been to a live event have. It's hard for me to go and take seriously sometimes, and you just being direct. If you are in an audience, you know the difference, and you'll hear the difference, and you'll feel the difference of a battle. If you're sitting behind a computer screen and can watch every single second of it back, play it inside and out, but not hear it or feel it live, you can have an opinion. But if you weren't there and saw it, you might have a hard time understanding why decisions go the way they do. But
yeah, I mean, while we're at it, like speaking of the 2019 American Champs, that was like definitely one of the most important events for me in the development trajectory, career, whatever. The some of those losses, they really suck. They really hurt, right? But it's so important to like sit with those, you know, and not to try and move past them too fast and like shut it down and stuff, right? I recently took a big fat L in the online world champs, right? Fabi Boss taking me to town, right?
You
Not giving me any room to make mistakes and whatnot. Split decision loss, right? That was one of those where it's like, yeah, dude, that really hurt. But you got to recenter on why you do this stuff, right? You got to recenter on gratitude for opportunities to perform, right? Opportunities to reflect and to tell you to, hey, buddy, remember, don't try to perform brand new compositions that you haven't shown anybody yet as your second round, right? Again, keep practicing ways to manage anxiety so you don't get so anxious before performing, right? Like it's so important to take losses and grow from those.
100%. Losses are the best lessons and can definitely inspire you to do better and achieve more. It's
winning battles versus people like Inertia versus MH, and like, you know, those are cool wins too. Like you have to appreciate those, and not
you placed second when it came to the wild cards in the online world champs, and again, you end up get taken out in first round, which is by seeding rounds you wouldn't know and wouldn't necessarily expect that. But what happens in a battle happens in a battle. But you've also
it was just on that day. I think that's the other thing, is that like the battles are just moments. They are these like super tiny transient things that exist in a tiny little bit of time and are alive. They're real. But the videos, they last forever, right? So you can always go back and be like, oh crap, yeah, I might have beaten Inertia in a beatbox battle at the time, but that is a tiny sliver moment in time. In that like 20 minutes, yeah, I won the battle. But like, let's not kid ourselves over like the long term. Like that battle wouldn't hold up today, right? It would not go the same way today. Like the battle versus Fabi Boss, it might have gone a different way the day before or the day after, right? Like I think that's one of the things, is that because we're always so online and we have all this access to like stamped moments, like people who can watch back battles and kind of Monday morning quarterback the judges' decisions and stuff like that. It's like those videos, they stamp in time a moment that doesn't exist anymore.
True, but it shouldn't be forgotten either. There's no
exactly.
It's a good thing to have those memories, because you can look back and see that you've had success, especially recently in 2020, in 2019 as well, I believe. But you win, you get another SBX shout out, and you win the Clip Loopstation server, 7 to Smoke. You've done that now twice.
Shout out to the Clip Loopstation server. Yeah, the 7 to Smoke battles were awesome.
You took down the Lions beatbox battle as well.
Yeah.
You also took down the Beatbox Winter Games, where you had going up against MH in the finals, and so you take down another W.
Leather, Epos, and then MH in the finals.
Slither, who ends up being the online world champ. So I mean,
yeah.
It's
At
crazy
15,
to see how
no
life
less.
goes.
The dude's crushing it. Yeah.
Guys, an absolute beast. So you've been stacking up W's. You've been putting out a lot of music. Question for you: what's next? What's next on your palette when it comes to what's next on your plate when it comes to battling? What are things that you want to accomplish? Is there a desire still to go for American champs, go for GBB, Great North? Is there some other battle that you want?
I've really been thinking about that. I think that American champs right now has got so much extra baggage. I've done that. Like that was like my first. Those are some of my first and most formative experiences battling and whatnot. I don't know about American champs. I cannot say quite yet. Obviously, like the dream, the competitive thing, the making it to the league is going to be the GBB stage, right? And continuing to see how that develops over the next few years and everything. Great North, like all those live battles, all those live performances, that's just so important. It's so good to have connection with the people who are there and people who are in those moments. Like those are times where I can think back and point to some of the most impactful opportunities for growth, right? So I definitely want to keep putting myself in those positions to grow and to interact with people. I would say that I'm also definitely right now looking pretty seriously outside of the beatbox audience itself, right? Because as I continue to perform and expand, like my live set, right? I've been doing a lot of performances with So Far Sounds. They're a great company that does like listening room type sets and really help promote smaller artists. I have been speaking with some people about like record label type stuff or booking agency type stuff, some of the more like live shows oriented professionalism things outside of like an audience that I already have kind of generated a little bit that's spread so far around the globe, right? Like I'm not expecting all y'all on the onlines who might follow me on YouTube or Instagram or whatever to like pack up a room in Hartford, Connecticut.
But it'd be nice.
But it sure would be nice, right? I'll get y'all some free tickets.
You know.
But yeah, so other things I think is that are really essential for me are to continue pushing into original music, right? I know that I have said this, that I have used a lot of practice with covers over the last year or two now to hone the craft. Like covers have been a way that I have been practicing breaking down the creative process, right? Really honing in on certain things, but I want to push past being a primarily cover artist. I want to continue pushing as hard as I can into the original music sphere, and that goes beyond just like competition oriented creative, like creative ways of doing things, like translating beatboxing into full song recording type things in Ableton, right? Like I've been pushing myself to get better into the producing world, right? Collaborating, that's going to be huge, right? I've had a few collaborations with Remy from Canada, Rhyme, the Canadian Loopstation champion. Yeah, right?
Yeah,
And I just got a little text from him saying he'd feel fine with it. I actually have a little bit of a maybe teaser, trailer, or heck, we can just play the whole song if y'all want. He and I have co-written a song, just recorded some of the last pieces to it up in Canada last week.
Well, here, how about we go and play that? You know what? Let's get this going. Then we'll come back with I got some questions that I want to ask you, but we're gonna get into another section after that of rapid fire. Some rapid fire.
Rapid fire. Ooh, that sounds good.
But before we do that though, go and play a tune. Go and play a tune and tell us the name of it before you jump on there.
Yeah. So I'll start it off. I'll just like give y'all maybe like the first little verse chorus type thing. There's a whole bridge, a couple extra verses, a really fun bunch of harmonies in the last chorus, but I don't want to ruin the surprise. Maybe just a quick little teaser. This is a track that I wrote with Remy over the last like month or two, and it came from a story of interacting with one of the people across the political aisle from me, while I was I was outside performing some music, and I was thinking to myself like, dude, what do we have to do to like get everybody back and to have conversations and to be vulnerable but not try to win arguments, as opposed to like limiting our own chances to grow as people and to like take in new mindsets and stuff. So I'm gonna see if I can get the ins and outs stuff to work. I'm gonna just double check that like y'all can hear when I play stuff. I'll send it through the Zoom audio device. That'll probably work.
Let's hear it.
Oh, in order to share it, can you make the screen sharing thing on Zoom work?
Yeah, that'd be a question for Ilya, our gracious man who's hideful here, running the stream.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if he's.
I'll stay on my screen, but can you turn screen sharing on for participants so that I can share the computer audio? cool. Thank
So
you.
once again, if you guys are just tuning in, we're about to go and hear a collaboration that's going to be coming out sooner than later. And it's in between our good friend here, Mr. Galush, and we also have Rhyme representing for Canada. So a North American connection. They go by Relouche.
Yeah, Rylush Game. that little
Relouche
acronym.
Game. So they
of
got
the-
some stuff going on. But show us what's up.
Can y'all hear the beginning of that? So this whole thing was made on the 505, but I recorded pieces into Ableton and rearranged everything.
This is what it takes to get on the same page. You should not mistake this courage for forgiveness. You're not off the hook yet.
La même longueur d'onde, qu'est-ce que ça prend? Pas mal conciliance, mais surtout du temps. Et puis pour le pardon, ça va en prendre aussi. Il n'y a pas que du bon sans un peu de sursis. Mais tu sais ce qu'on dit, pour être sur la même entente, faut d'abord savoir écouter avant de se dire ami. Mais tu sais au fond, la vraie recette de la vie, c'est penser avec sa tête, puis avoir le cœur bon. Ya, ya, ya.
Oh, when the lines are drawn and it feels unending. Oh, be brave enough to step towards mending.
I'ma take it down with a quick instrumental. The blast in my sub has got me going crazy, waving my way, wondering why I can't be as successful as the friends who present on a screen. But maybe I am really better off on the stage. Keep on grounding my feet and staying on the same page with the hip hop, the drops, the boom bap and claps, the beatbox.
This is what it takes to get on the same page.
And I'm gonna kill it right there. Yeah. Just a quick little teaser, a little bit.
Man, that was. Make sure you guys watch out. It's coming out, and we'll be listening to that collaboration.
We'll be
Galush and
filming a
Rhyme.
fun video.
Let's go. But, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls,
Rapid
children of
fire,
all
rapid
ages,
fire.
everybody from around the world, thank you for tuning in. I can see that we have people going on. Right off the bat, somebody wants to, Crispy Looper wants you to go and wave at the camera because he wants to make sure that you know that he just wants you to notice him. So there's a wave
Yes,
to
Crispy Looper.
And we got
What's
a bunch
going on,
of
Greg
people
Rocks?
here.
Good to see you in the chat as well.
Yes, just saw that. But yo, let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get this going happening. Rapid fire questions with Galush, episode 71, Beyond the Beats. Are you ready, Galush?
I am ready.
Let's get it popping. First question. Who is your current favorite solo beatboxer?
Inertia. I'm just gonna say off of the beatbox battle at the Beatbox House the other day. That was crazy.
Current favorite tag team?
Spider Horse for life. Woohoo!
Current favorite crew?
Ooh, that one's tough. Sarukani, just because they're so creative. Sound design's amazing.
Current favorite Loopstation artist?
I am honestly like such a big fan of Rhyme from Canada. Like unironically, like I think I'm his biggest fan. You know, I know he doesn't like, you know, he doesn't have necessarily the huge string of wins that people like KBA and MH have. I love all their stuff. Josh O's amazing. We're just like, I'm such an incredible fan of Remy's. It's just why I want to collaborate with him so much. Like Remy, #1 favorite looper.
Current favorite solo beatbox sound?
No. I've actually been working on an original one. It's like a hyper compression thing from like metal screaming, but you turn it into a like a high throat bass kind of thing.
Okay. Current favorite sound effects on your Loopstation?
I love this one I did in Here Between. Hang on. I can just get a really cool bit of percussion stuff with that.
What's a sound you are working on outside of the Loopstation? What's the sound that you're trying to get in the beatbox solo?
Ooh, I've been grinding vibration bass for a while. It just takes forever to warm up.
What is your favorite sport to play currently? Because I know that you are not only a former football player, you played lacrosse, you were a wrestler,
American
volleyball
football.
player, American football. Yeah,
volleyball is my favorite like game sport to play, for sure.
Favorite to watch,
just for fun. Favorite one to watch. Oh. Some of the wrestling matches at the Olympics were just incredible to check out. The technical level was insane.
Favorite football team, American football team.
Well, after Tom Brady of my hometown team, the New England Patriots, after he went down to Tampa and most of the whole team followed him, I'm happy to hang out with Tampa.
All right. What's your favorite YouTube channel outside of beatboxing?
Right now, it's Feek the Signifier. He's an awesome like sociologist who does like video essays on everything from movies. He broke down Bo Burnham's special Inside Out. He's got a lot of really, really great insight on contemporary cultural stuff.
What is your favorite food to eat?
Oh no, peanut M&Ms.
What is your favorite meal to have?
I like having lunch, but at the time of breakfast.
Where would you take me if you were going to go and show me the best place to eat in your city?
My principal at my school, he says the best pizza in Connecticut is like a Red Baron or DiGiorno, like the microwave or frozen one. Like, what are you talking about? There's some amazing pizza places in Connecticut.
Okay, so a pizza place. All right. And last but not least, what is it's a hot day. You're really sweaty. What is it that you reach for in a cooler if you're trying to get a refreshment?
Ooh. Goombay Punch. It is a pineapple soda from the Bahamas.
Last question, I was lying to you. Chess, game or sport?
Lifestyle.
Oh.
Or a premise for a great anime. I don't know.
Do you like cats or dogs better?
My mom has brought home a puppy, so I have to say dogs contractually. They're too cute not to.
All right, and last but not least, who do you think out of the people that are left is going to win the kickback battle? 2021 Loopstation edition with the RC505 Mark II.
If KBA keeps putting out stuff like his Predator beat, which was awesome to get some preliminary sneak peeks at in the sound design process. If he can keep doing that, he's going to be a very formidable competitor.
Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, that was Rapid Fire, Rapid Fire with Galush. Up next, we have questions from
my friend Papuni.
My friend Paponi.
There's a few questions. Yeah, there's a few questions for you. First of all,
My friend Papuni
wants to know, what is a dream stage for you to perform on?
One where there's a mix of beatboxers and, I don't know what we call them, regular people, noobs. I don't know. Definitely as much as I can, I love being parts of bigger productions, being able to mix in with a lot of other artists, so that we can all continue to support each other, even sharing the stage with everyone. So like a big festival thing, but with lots of performers.
Okay.
My friend Papuni
wants to know either. Okay, I'll put. He didn't say this exactly. He said, which loopers would you like to work with to make a song? And I'll say outside of rhyme. Who's somebody
of course.
New looper that you'd like to work with? Could be anybody.
One up and coming awesome guy who just won the Crossroads beatbox battle is Micah. He's got just some awesome stage presence, attitude, energy, like hard style stuff that I think would be like such a weirdly incompatible thing. I think would work great.
My friend Papuni
wants to know, in your opinion, who is somebody, could be anybody, living or dead, who's somebody you'd like to see in an audience that you're performing for?
In the audience.
somebody watching you perform. Who's someone that you'd want to share your performance with?
I mean, last year I would have said someone like D-Lo, but then he did a reaction to one of my songs, and that was just crazy. President Obama. I don't know.
Okay, going for big guns. All right.
Got the Secret Service in the crowd.
Yeah, that just means more people fill it up. Intelligence now.
My friend Papuni. My friend Papuni.
Has another question for you. He wants to know, where is this question going to? Aha. All right. Another question from him is, who is an artist that you'd like to collaborate with outside of the beatbox world?
John Bellion or the band Lawrence. Lawrence has been signed to John Bellion's record label, but he is an amazing producer, artist. He has written songs for Rihanna and Justin Bieber. He's an amazing artist on his own right, but he also does a lot of supporting behind the scenes of lots of other really big hits. And I saw one of his live shows, and he beatboxes like a Boots and Cats kind of level beatboxing. But the way he works it into his show is super cool because he will have his band be like, okay, band, I want you to play what I beatbox right here, and he'll beatbox something, he'll hum Boots and Cats something, and then his whole band will just echo after him after 4 bars, the whole a whole nice arranged bit of stuff based off of his beatbox.
I like that a lot. Last but not least,
my friend Papuni
wants to know, are you coming to this year's GBB? And if not, will you be at one in the future?
I'll definitely be at one in the future. This year's GBB, I just got a bunch of emails that my flights have been messed with, that they've been either canceled and had to be rescheduled. So I have tickets. I've got flights at least trying to happen. I got flight tickets months ago, but just recently there have been some technical issues or whatever with them. So I'll sort those out. Delta variant permitting. I'm fully vaccinated. I'm coming over as whatever's going to take to get there for this year, however it looks, for sure.
My friend Papuni.
We'll be definitely happy with that answer.
Yeah. Get vaccinated, guys.
We'll see a wild Galush in the audience at GBB. All right. Now, for the people that have been with us, there's a bunch of questions that came in. So questions from our audience. First question, Ish. Carry On wants to know, what is your favorite mic to use for looping?
That's actually a great question. I currently have this SM58, which is actually my backup mic for years, because it's so rugged and dependable. I'd been using a D5, and I've actually gone through 2 of them. I have had 2 D5s just quit on me over the course of the years. Before that, I had the Sennheiser E835 that I loved the sound of, but again, that was another one that for whatever reason just quit on me for after a year or 2. So for now, it's going to be the SM58, but I'm certainly in the market to perhaps win a DPA something or other if I can do something cool like that. Shouts to
DPA 2028. Yeah, we'll see what happens there. Ish, another question from our audience. Crispy Looper wants to say, Galush, after hearing you and finding you through your battles, you have such a great energy and your music taste is so new and so enjoyable to listen to. I really hope you continue to improve and continue to succeed. And a follow-up.
We love support for the growth of artists.
And the follow-up question was, when making music, what's a good method for you to use when starting a new track?
Oh, funny enough, a lot of the original songs I came up with started as covers of other songs, and then through the process of trying to come up with new variations on them or new ways of doing them in the Loopstation, for example, they took on a bit of a life of their own. And then I realized if I just write new lyrics, it's a whole new song already, because the melody's already different, the backing track's already different, it's completely unrecognizable. That was the case for songs like Permanent Timeout. That was the case for songs Here Between. That one started as a it was a cover for a day, and then I was like, nah, forget that, I'm gonna write an original song off of the same idea, and then I went a whole different direction. So lean into the music that inspires you, right? And don't be afraid to own what inspires you, and then take it to another level.
Good answer. A question, I'm not sure if it's from the audience or Ilya, but what are your thoughts on the MK2 so far, and do you see yourself buying one when it comes out?
Yeah, I have pre-ordered the MK2. One of the things that hey, targeted aggressive marketing, it works, guys. Keep doing that stuff. Yeah. I'm very excited for the MK2. I like all of the new features that I'm seeing. I did hope that they would have like the LED lights behind the plastic buttons. Oops, sorry. Behind the buttons. Like we saw when Robin was performing on the top of the truck thing, and it was like bright light outside. It was really hard to see that his loop was actually on because the buttons were lit by the sun too brightly. I was hoping for, like, that's like my one gripe about the new Loopstation that I've seen so far. But the MK2 is very exciting. I have pre-ordered it. Remind me the second half of that question.
Oh no, that was the second question. Second half was you're gonna go and grab it.
Yes,
another person has put in Eric Blutet. Eric Blutet sent 10 euros and said that they're hyped for the Beyond the Beats, hype for the 5v5 loop, and hype for the hype. So thank you very much for throwing that in. And we'll go with one more question because they've been watching it the entire time. So Ish, Crispy Looper once again wants to go and say, what's your favorite second device? Or are you just on the single RC505? Are you a single RC505 rebel?
Rebel, yeah. My favorite second device right now is Ableton. No,
Jeez.
I mean, I like my Korg for sure. I want to continue developing that. One of the things that I wanted to get to, especially considering the MK2 coming out soon, is that I have a lot of material that is on the 505 or on the Korg that I haven't shared quite yet. I haven't either finalized a video for it or set it in some kind of recording stone. And one of the goals I have for the next month or two before the MK2 comes out is to create for myself an opportunity to enter a whole new musical space, right? Is to put a nice little cap on, let's say, the chapter of the 505, and to allow myself to not feel like I have to I don't know, hold off on all these old songs that never made the cut, right? I want to give them the respect and the space and the up on the shelf kind of reification that they deserve, right? I want to make them real. Because for a lot of music, a lot of loopers especially, they have so much music, they have so much stuff just in the 505 that never sees the light of day. Either they don't make it that far in a battle, or they just haven't had the chance to just record it just for the sake of recording it. But as I'm looking at second devices and whatnot, I want to see stuff that the reason I love the Korg so much is because it still feels it still sounds like I'm just looping my voice and a couple 505 stock looper sound design things. I like that style, and the Korg lets me do that without introducing a ton of new sound design that takes it away from still feeling like a just 505 looper. I think the thing about second devices for me is if it gets too far away from even just if it goes too deep into sound design, if your second device gives you too much new sound design options, I start losing some of the connection with the familiarity that we as a whole community have with the 505, because it's kind of been our baby for the last 5 or 6 years or whatever. So second devices for me, they have to match the creative needs for me. And I try and make it not about battling. I try and make sure that my second devices are really about letting me do more of what I want to do with my sound, with my songwriting style, with my musicianship beyond battling. And that's how I can use it successfully in battles.
Solid. I'll go with one last one before we go and finish this off. I want to go and know by Carry On had one more question, Ish. The question is, if you were on the GBB when you get to the Grand Beatbox battle stage, who's someone that you'd like to go and battle right now? There's somebody that you'd like to
positive
share that.
visualization.
I got
When?
you. I got you.
Love
I'm not
that.
saying if, I say when.
Who would I like to battle? Good grief, that's a lot. I mean, it's not that deep, but like obviously, Sarah, I want to end that undefeated streak. You don't get to win like Joe Montana and then walk away from the game forever, right off into the sunset with your undefeated record.
We'll see. We gonna see about that. That's a good answer. Those are questions from our audience. Ish.
Hey, thank y'all so much.
Yo, man. Again, walk through a very interesting conversation. You're very well spoken, very well thought out, very successful in what you've done so far, and I'm very excited to go and see where you're going to take not only your music but also see you in battles again, and just overall excited just to go and see what you do with the career. If you bring it back into go for your schooling, bringing it into that realm and all sorts of stuff, man. I'm happy to have you in the community and very, very excited to go and see where you go in the world of beatboxing. Where can people currently go and follow you? Where can people currently go and see you? And
Great
things
question.
that you could go and actually support you.
Yeah, so you can support me in a couple of different ways. My YouTube channel, I have more videos coming out on that very soon. There will be live performances of mine coming up. If you're one of the few people who are in the New York City, Boston, Northeastern United States kind of area, there'll be live shows that I do up there. And following me on Instagram, you can find out about all of those. So it's at Galush_music. And that'll be like the main hub for where y'all can find me. I try and keep it limited to only a few social media places. So I can really pour enough energy into those places to really keep it keep a hold of it all.
100%. And I know that on the events that people may be able to go and actually listen to, jump on Discord. And on the 18th of September, there's going to be the LGBT Beatbox cipher that's going down. So make sure that you guys go and check that out. Check out the Discord. And if you check his Instagram out, I believe there'll be places that he'll put up stuff according to that. So that's on the 18th. So once again, new music on its way, more things coming, endlessly pushing beatboxing. I would love to fast forward in time and somehow be young and be your student in an actual classroom and have you as a teacher. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
And you're puts a big smile on my face to see your face and see that you're doing so well. And again, it's great
Thanks
to
so
have
much,
somebody.
guys. It's been awesome speaking with y'all and to see everyone in the chat being sending so much love. So thank you again for the opportunity. Leading with gratitude over here just for the Swissbeatbox team, getting the chance to put those shout outs up and everything. So just again, thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been great speaking with you.
No, man, it's been a good time. It's been a great time. And again, I thoroughly mean it when I say it. It's more people like you in the scene is what's needed. And it's people like you that will push it forward in ways that just allow it to go and grow and prosper and actually achieve some great things outside of just quote unquote making noises, but making music and making positive changes and putting forward the best foot that we can possibly do as a community. So thank you for your work, brother.
That's what it's all about. Thanks so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everybody around the world that's tuned in. This has been episode 71, Beyond the Beats. We are with Galush. Make sure you go follow up the Instagram, the YouTube. Check out September 18th once again for that cipher on Discord. More shows coming in around the New York area. And overall, keep checking it out because you never know what's going to be put out on YouTube with pieces. I know that piece is coming out with rhyme that I'm looking forward to. We heard a little preview of. And overall, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, people, everyone around the world, call your friends and family, tell them you love them, and keep that beatbox sword sharp. Scott Jackson, it's your boy signing out saying, have yourself a wonderful rest of the weekend, good start to your week, all that good stuff. And big shout outs once again to Fortis, keeping me on time when I say time, and I'm about to go and do that. So at the end of the day, thank you very much for tuning in. Keep checking out Swissbeatbox. Enjoy your life. And that's time.